Well, hello, everyone. I'm Tyler Chrestman, and welcome to the Chrestman Conversation. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about this Virginia's governor's race. I have absolutely no notes or anything in front of me. I'm actually just a little excited, so decided to basically put this on as they were announcing results. So here's a little bit of backstory. We have to ask ourselves a question real quick. We have to ask ourselves, why was Joe Biden elected president of the United States? And one of the early obvious answers to anyone who pays attention should be that Joe Biden won the primary because he was a moderate. Joe Biden beat people to his left wing because what Joe Biden promised was a return to normalcy. That was his whole campaign. It was, hey, I'm Joe Biden. You guys know me. I've been in politics for 40 years, and I'll be normal. This Trump guy, he's not normal. So let me be normal for you. And that was his pitch. He boxed out Bernie Sanders and all the progressive candidates because people were electing someone they could ignore. That was the whole point. Joe Biden was elected because you could ignore him. That was his pitch. That was his promise. And what happened was Joe Biden won. He won the presidency. And when he won, he decided that what instead he was going to do was go really, really far left and cater to his progressive wing of the caucus. The people who, by the way, did not elect him. The people who elected Joe Biden were the people in the middle. Those were the people who elected Joe Biden. This swing to his way left was clearly an overstep of the mandate in which he was given when he was elected, which was to be ignorable. And he decided he wanted to make himself into a transformational president. He wanted to go down in history as the guy who changed it. In his own words, he wants to redo the way the American economy works. He wants to redo the way America works. That was not why he was elected. He does not realize this, but hopefully after tonight he does. Because Joe Biden, last year, November, let's flash back a year. Last year, November, election time comes around. Joe Biden won Virginia by 12 points over Donald Trump. Now, there's been a race going on for governor here between these two guys, Glenn Youngkin and Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe is the former governor of Virginia, and Glenn Youngkin, for all intents and purposes, he's a nobody. And this race became the central point of national politics for the past month because Joe Biden won a year ago. He won by 12 points in that state. And the race for Virginia's governor began to tighten, and it made Democrats really nervous because the implications are that if if the Democrats lose in a state that Joe Biden just won by 12 points, what does that mean for all the swing states? What does that mean for all the states where it was close? So the Democrats came out hardcore in Virginia. Obama came out of hiding and did some campaigning. They brought out all the stops. They had Stacey Abrams there, who the Democrats love. They had all of these people come, and it didn't make a dent. Didn't make a difference. Glenn Youngkin just won the governorship of Virginia, and he did so for a number of reasons, but the biggest one being that people now are looking at the Democrats and saying, this is not why we elected you. We didn't elect you for this reason. We didn't elect you to transform America. We elected you so we could go back to normal. And the Democrats are not going to learn from this. You're seeing already that they lost the governorship in Virginia. By the way, again, this cannot be overstated. They won by 12 points 1 year ago. 12 points is not a small margin of victory. That's a blowout. They won by 12 points a year ago, and they just lost last night. And Glenn Youngkin did that by just pointing out the fact that the Democrats have swung far left. They're not moderates anymore. The Democratic Party is not moderate anymore. And there was a number of issues that they focused on, but there was a couple in particular. Number one being the schools. The Loudoun County School Board basically won this election for Glenn Youngkin. Congratulations, guys. You did it. I know you're all a bunch of Democrats, but you just won for the Republican because of this whole critical race theory stuff in school. This whole, the Loudoun County one in particular was actually about trans issues, where we don't have to go into the whole story, but basically the Loudoun County School Board flat out lied to parents and then wrote a letter to Merrick Garland asking him to investigate all these parents. It's a whole thing. Well, that wasn't just Loudoun County. That was the whatever that lady's name is, the head of the National Teachers Union. She wrote the letter, but it was because of people in places like Virginia and Loudoun County who were standing up to these school boards asking real tough questions about critical race theory. Like, why is this being taught in schools? Why are we doing this to children? Why are we racializing things that don't require this lens to look through? And because of that, and because of the way that parents are treated in places like Virginia, where Terry McAuliffe, the day before this election, said that parents shouldn't have the right to influence what their kids are learning in schools, and then also said that there were too many white teachers and we needed to fix that. So he's just a moron, or at least a bad politician. And so we have a lot of people to thank here. These school boards who are overstepping their mandate. This critical race theory stuff is not popular. It really is not. You have an activist fringe who thinks that it is, or thinks that it's good. It's not good and it's not popular. They have overstepped their boundaries, and when parents push back, they are labeled domestic terrorists by people like the Loudoun County School Board and Merrick Garland. And because of that, they're looking at these Democrats and they're saying, you're not sane. You think a sane person, we're going to go with the other guy. And so Glenn Youngkin won, not because he's the best politician in the world, but because all this was a referendum against the Democrats. The way that 2016 was a referendum against Trump, this is a referendum against the Democrats. And they're not going to learn. You're seeing it already. They're doubling down about this election, saying things like white ignorance won Virginia, saying racism is the real winner here tonight. These people don't understand it. Labeling everyone who doesn't agree with you a racist is a terrible strategy, because they are not. They're not. It's like I tell people all the time, I have often been accused of that, and I just shake my head and laugh, because these people aren't serious. Anyone who are not serious individuals, you don't have to take them seriously, and you don't have to be afraid of their name calling, because they're not critical thinkers. I'll tell you that. The word critical might be in critical race theory, but there's no critical thinking going on there. I guarantee you that. So I think that today I'm celebrating with the Republicans. I've told people this. I'm not a registered Republican. I've never been a Republican. I voted Republican maybe twice in my life at this point. In two different races, but I will tell you this, I'm celebrating with the Republicans tonight, because what I want to see more than anything else is a pushback against the Democratic Party. I would like to see the Democratic Party have to rebound and normalize and become the Democratic Party of people like Bill Maher. People like Bill Maher, people like myself, right? I have not a traditional Republican, I'm not a traditional conservative, but I can't remember who said this, maybe Dave Rubin. Someone said this, and I've thought about it a lot, and it is very true. My liberal values have now made me a conservative in 2021, because I believe most of the same stuff I did. I've changed on economics. I've changed a little bit on some of the way that the government should do spending, but my other beliefs, all the same as they were 10 years ago. But now I'm a conservative, according to most people when you talk to me, because I never got on board the woke nonsense. I'm not for this critical race theory stuff. I believe in facts and figures, not poetic rhetoric. So anyway, we need to, everyone, raise a toast today to the Commonwealth of Virginia for their fantastic job, and good luck to the new governor. I just wanted to do a quick podcast here to talk about that. Why did they win? What will Democrats learn? They won because Joe Biden oversteps his mandate. You can't demonize parents. Get this critical race theory stuff out of the schools. People hate it. And it's not just white parents, by the way. People hate it. When you poll the black community and you ask them questions about things that critical race theory teaches, they are not for it. They really aren't. We treat the black community like a monolith. They're not. You have the activists who think one way and then purport to speak for the black community, and then you have the black community as a whole, and they're as divided as anyone else. You never would say something and try and speak for the white community, right? You'd look like a ridiculous person. If I sat here and I tried to speak for the white community, I would look ridiculous because there's no white community. They believe all sorts of things. We can't treat the black community that way. I understand 90% of the black people in this country vote Democrat. That doesn't mean they all believe the same thing, and we shouldn't treat them as such. So when we say that, oh, the black community supports this, the black community supports that, no, they don't. Some black people do, some black people don't. We got to get away from that kind of thinking. That racialization of politics is not good. Treat people as individuals. It's the way it should be. Anyway, we're gonna leave it there. Everyone, again, raise a glass to Virginia, and hopefully the Democrats, this knocks some sense into them. As I said, just judged off the worst of the worst on Twitter. It is not. They're going to double down. They're going to call Virginia now a racist state. They're going to call you a racist if you disagree with them. Don't be afraid of the name calling. Know what's true in your heart. Speak freely. Stand up for yourself. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of what people might say if you speak your mind. Speak your mind. Be honest. Be nice. Be kind. There's no reason to be mean. We don't have to be mean to each other. I know sometimes on this podcast I dip a little bit, and I call Terry McAuliffe a moron. But interpersonally, when you're interacting with other people, I try and have a policy online. You should have it too, which is don't say anything you wouldn't say to someone's face. Don't say anything overly nasty to a person who hasn't done anything nasty to you. There's no reason to. If you look at my podcast or anytime I engage with people online, you won't find me name-calling people online. I don't do it. It's a good policy to have as an adult. Don't try not to be mean. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's easy to name call, especially right now when you're doing what I'm doing, which is gloating, just being happy that the Democrats hopefully eat a lot of crow in the next election. They're going to lose. They're going to lose big, and they're scared. You can see it. You see it already. This is the complete justification of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, by the way. This is the validation of their concerns that when you're from a purple state, you can't just go along with the party line of these progressives who now run the caucus. You can't do it. You have to look out for yourself and your state and your people. If your people are purple, meaning that they vote Democrat, they vote Republican, you have to try and walk a tightrope. I don't envy them. Let's hope they keep going. Let's hope that they figure it all out and the Democrats figure it out, and we have two sane parties right now. I know the Democrats look at the Republicans, they think they're insane. The Republicans look at the Democrat, they think they're insane. The truth is, when I look at it, and I try my best to be objective, there's a fringe of the Republican Party that's a little nuts, but it has become mainstream in the Democratic Party. And they, to me, are more of a concern than the Republicans at this point. That's just my honest that's my honest assessment of the situation. That's why you see me out here criticizing Democrats more than Republicans, because that party needs to change. They need to they need to find their heart and figure out where they want to be. There are two parties wrestling against each other right now. They're two snakes in a barrel, and they need to figure out which one's going to slither out and be the live one. But they won't. That's my fear. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. I'm Tyler Chrestman.